Okay guys, so in this activity we're going to use functions and return parameters to understand a way to improve the efficiency of our apps. Okay, so we're going to start with creating a screen one, and in this screen one we're going to create a complement generator. Complement generator will allow us to concatenate a name and a complement. Okay, now let's start by adding some of our labels and buttons. So we're going to start with a label, and this label is going to be the title of our app, which is complement generator. Then we are going to add a button, and this button is going to be create complement. This button will allow us to, when we click it, we will go to a function, and this function is going to actually create the complement. Now remember that we are going to add a list of complements to our app. Then we're going to add another label. This other label is where we're going to see the concatenated complement. The layout is not very important right now. We're just looking at the code that we are going to develop. Okay, and well, we are going to add, one more thing that we need to add is very important. It's text input, where the person is going to put their name. That person is going to add their name, and then we're going to concatenate the name with a complement from, a random complement from a list, okay? Okay, we're going to add this complement, put it on the top, so the title is seen clearly. I'm going to add the complement on the top. Just add a little bit more size. And then we are going to head on to our block diagram, okay? Okay, so let's start coding our app. And first of all, we're going to grab the button, and we're going to say when button 7 clicks, I need to start creating my variables. So let's create the variables that I need. The first variable that I need is going to be a name and the list. Okay, so we're going to start with the list. We're going to create the variable for the list. I'm going to go to variables. I'm going to initialize variable list complement. Okay, and I'm going to initialize that list with some complements that I have. I'm going to use this block of code, and I'm going to add a string on each of these complements. You guys can do a lot more if you want. So I'm going to add all the complements right here. Now I have you are the best, you look good today, you make my day, and these are going to be the list of strings that are going to be concatenated when I send them to the function. Okay? Another thing that I need is another variable, and this variable is going to be the name. The name of the person that is written on the text input, okay? And I'm going to initialize this name to an empty string, where I will overwrite in a minute when I press the click, or when I click the button, okay? So the first thing we're going to do is that we're going to set that name. When we press the button, we're going to set name. We're going to set name to whatever is on the text input. So we're going to click on set text input. I'm going to grab that one, the text. Okay, and we need to find a random item from the list. And I think we have on that list palette that you see on the left, palette that you see, we have a function that is called random. Let's look for it, okay? Okay, we need to add another variable, of course, because we're going to store that complement, the one that we find, we need to store it in a complement variable because we're going to get one from the random items and then we're going to take it into complement. And so we're going to have the name and we're going to have the complement, and those two variables are going to be sent to the function. So I'm going to look in the list for that function that I need. But before, let's put set. I'm going to set complements to, and we're going to find the random item on the list. So I'm going to look for the function. Let's see where the function is. Let's look for that random function. I know that is there somewhere. There we go. So the random item, there it is. There's the function, and I'm going to add find the random item in the list that I need, which is list complements. List complements is okay. So I'm going to add these two, and I'm going to put it on my code. Okay. So now I have name, where is the text input, and then I have a random item from the list that I created. Okay. Now I'm going to create a function, but this time it's going to be a little bit different. So I'm going to look for a function, but now it has a return value, and more than a return value, it will also have some parameters. So I'm going to call it concatenate complement, and in this function I'm going to concatenate those two functions. Now if I click on the gear, I can add some parameters to this function, okay? Now the important thing about adding parameters is that, and I'll tell you in a little while what is the scope of the variable. So I'm going to add two inputs, which is going to be the name. One input is going to be the name, and the other input is going to be the complement. And I can use exactly the same variables because they are different. The one that it's in purple, it's different from the one that it's in orange. Okay, we're talking about the scope of the variable, and that scope is just inside the purple function. Okay, so what we're going to do is that we're going to send name and complement from the other portion of code into this code. Okay, and then we're going to return with a string. So we're going to right click. We can right click on the function in order to get the name and in order to get the complement. Okay, so we're going to click right there. Oh yeah, let's join it first, because remember that we need to concatenate the name and the complement. Remember guys that all this, you could have done it right on your main program. The thing is that creating functions makes it a lot more organized, and then you don't have to worry about sending or creating more variables than you need. So I'm going to click on get name, and I'm going to put that name right there, and then I'm going to click on complement, get complement. We're talking about the variables that are inside those those functions. Okay, now they're going to be concatenated. Oh, and I'm going to add a space just so we have the space right in between. Okay, and let's see if this app actually works. Oh, okay, we need to call the function, of course. After we click, we are going to call this function and add the parameters that we need. So we're going to go to functions, and now Now look at the functions. The functions return something. That's why it cannot be just placed there. In other occasions, we use the functions and it was just a process, a sequence, and we could put it right there. Now it returns something and we need to store it somewhere. So what we're going to do is that we're going to set the label to whatever the function returns. Remember that you can return a number, you can return a string, or you can even return a list or an object, okay? Now this complement will actually work in a very interesting way. We're going to send the functions, and we are going to add those two variables that we need right there. Okay? So now let's see if it actually works. So what we're going to do is that we're going to go back to our design, and then we're going to see how they actually work. Now remember that name and complement inside the purple, it's a different scope. I'm going to click on preview, and I'm going to put a name right there. I'm going to use Vanessa, which is my wife, and I'm going to click on create complement, and there you have it. You have a concatenation. Now inside the program, remember that you're looking for a random item on the list, and then you're concatenating through a function that returns after it's developed a string. Okay, so it returns a string. This is really helpful when you have a function that operates with different parameters. It's not the same variable always. Okay. Now what we're gonna do, and what you guys are gonna do, is that on your practice activity you're gonna go to 9.4. Remember the variables make. Now on variables make, you are going to go to screen 2 and look for one of the choice boards that we have. Remember that we had an app choice board. That app choice board will give you about 5 to 6 different options for apps, and you will choose one and develop it now with functions. Now you will use one of these in order to practice, but with functions. You will have to send parameters, and the function will need to return either a number or either a string, and you can do whatever you want with it. Okay, so good luck, and I will see you next class.